Hello and welcome to Please Don't Send Me Into Outer Space, the podcast intent on exploring all that science fiction and fantasy has to offer, one random movie at a time. My name is Aaron Cornelius.
My name is Sarah Roberts.
My name is Joel Torres. The movie this week was LFO the Movie from 2013, directed by Antonio Tublin. It's a Danish movie starring people whose names I'm not going to try to pronounce after trying to pronounce them for about 15 minutes.
Please keep that note up because I'm going to try to pronounce
Oh,
them.
you're going to try to pronounce
I'll try
them?
it here.
All right.
Okay, we've got Patrick Carlson,
Yeah, that's the easy one. Mm-hmm.
Isabella Joe Ching.
Chig.
I think Chig.
Yes.
Chig. The T is silent, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. T-S-C-H-I.
And then Perf Lofberg.
Right.
Lofbetty.
It says Lofberg, but I put it through, how do you pronounce this? And it said it is pronounced Lofbetty. Lofbetty.
Huh.
I'm not Danish, or Swedish. What did I already say? Danish? I've ruined this podcast.
No, not at all.
So it's a Swedish movie from 2013 about, let's get a little synopsis in here. Sarah, what would you say this movie is about? If you were going to synopsis it real quick.
Real quick, I'd say it's about a man who is tinkering with sound and trying to do new things with it, but he is also going through a personal crisis and just some things that come from that.
So what is this movie about, Aaron?
What Sarah said, man. Like you're following this guy who has this grand invention that he's come up with, a new sound. He has these notions of grandeur, and then you just kind of see him fumble and do some horrible things, and then I don't know, man. It was a trip, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It was a trip.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think any of us expected or knew what to expect with the movie. I mean, not just from not knowing anything about it when we chose it, but I mean, you can never tell with a low-budget movie what's actually gonna end up happening in it, especially. Well, you know what? I don't know what I'm talking about, so I'm just gonna stop talking like I know what's going on.
Well, what Sarah said again. The guy was obviously deranged, but also a genius.
The director of the movie, yes. Wait,
possibly.
No, you were talking about. You were talking
I was
about.
actually pleasantly surprised, despite all the deranged things that happen. I didn't know what to expect going into it. I expected to hate it because I know that more times than not, I don't like a sci-fi movie, especially if I don't know anything going into it. And this was foreign. I was not so sure what we were going to see. That it was twisted, but I enjoyed it.
That's good. That's good. I mean, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for things that are surprisingly enjoyable or are surprisingly bad and enjoyable even so.
Well, what I liked about the movie, I enjoy the synthesizer quite a bit, and this movie used, that was the whole idea was that he had found I can't remember the character's name, to be honest, but he had found this sound because he was having inner ear issues, right?
Rolf or something. What was his name? Rolf?
It was something extremely generic. It wasn't.
Yeah, I can't remember the gentleman's name. I'll refer to him as the guy with the glasses for now. But yeah, he'd found this sound because he was having some inner ear issues, and I guess as the movie progressed, like he was talking to someone via the internet, I'm assuming, and they were corresponding while he was figuring out this sound, and he said that he had like very nervous tendencies, and this particular level of sound helped calm him down. And then essentially, while he was experimenting with that sound, he recorded his voice over it.
Robert.
And Robert. Okay, yeah. Generic.
Should have remembered that. Yeah, the movie had a bunch of title cards where it was just a simple, not even a sentence. When the first one did say Robert, and there were other interesting little cuts in between. But I'm sorry.
Oh no, dude, don't worry about it. That's important info.
You were saying something extremely nerdy about synthesizers. That's
yeah. He found the sound that calmed him down, and then he accidentally recorded his voice over it, and he figured out that he could manipulate people he could manipulate people with this particular sound, and apparently the sound of his voice.
Yeah, that's actually, in the beginning, I was like, man, if there was like a single tone that I could play and feel completely at peace and rested, I mean, this is wonderful news on a psychological level. Just imagine, you put on a pair of headphones, you set a timer for 5 minutes, and you take it off, and you feel like you've been sleeping for 8 hours.
Yeah, that's...
Well, that's the whole movie. No, that's... Of course that's not the way it works out. I feel like science fiction movies, for the most part, unless they're the adventure type, are all about how technology has a special way of corrupting us. And you always see something, you hardly ever see an ideal future in future movies. I was thinking of, it's like, well, Gattaca's kind of nice, except for all of the children are genetically modified so that they're a certain way, and then you got to think of anything else.
I'm sure to the people in that society, everything was great, but, well, I mean, obviously, except the main character, of course, but yeah, they were all, like you said, living weird, genetically modified lives.
Right.
But yeah, from our perspective, it was very nightmarish to think one would be judged for their flaws, like on a genetic level like that. But yeah,
this was just the man gets a power. I mean, he doesn't physically get a power. This tone that he discovers gives him the ability to suggest things to anyone who hears that, who is in the trance state that he found himself in the first time he discovered it. And he can tell them what to do. They become his puppets. And what would you do if you had that power? That is a terrifying question. When I was a kid, if somebody had asked me that question, I probably would have had funny answers like, I'd make somebody stand on their head, or, I'd make the girl, this is where it starts to get twisted. Like, I'd make the girl at school that doesn't like me, or something like that. And, an innocence to your thought is, is something that just disappears when you're older. Like, what would you do if you had the power to command somebody to do anything? I don't even like to think about it.
Yeah.
I just remember saying out loud when we were watching it, who would want a slave? Like, you could have a slave probably in some parts of the world, or if you had enough money, or if you were crazy enough to capture someone, but who would want to enslave another person? Just boggles the mind, because I hope everyone's coming to the consciousness that it is never okay to treat another human being as like a tool for your own uses.
Yeah.
I mean, I just was like, why would you want these slaves?
Yeah, even the character, I mean, we have to emphasize that the character in this movie, Robert, is mentally ill. He is, in the very beginning we see he opens his bathroom mirror and it has a note on it that says, take your medicine or take your pills or something like that. And it's a problem that just progressively gets worse throughout the movie. At first you don't even realize what's going on, You think it's just somebody who discovers this thing and is being corrupted by it, but then you realize there was already something wrong with him.
The precedence is set that there's this like phenomenal power to control others, and then already we have this guy who definitely, like you said, he has issues, you know, and being off his medication is making him more egotistical. It's making him more of a monster. Now his brain has a check and balance, I guess you could say, even when he's off his meds, because he begins to visualize his dead wife and son. And the way at first, you know, the movie leads you to believe. I'm sorry, this is like a huge spoiler, but
It's
yeah,
There's
okay.
no way around
yeah,
it.
I guess there's no way around it. Yeah,
I think that we don't want to spoil the ending, but the rest of it is okay. I mean, it's...
I guess we haven't had that conversation yet,
Yeah,
have we?
no, not really. The more recent the movie, the less I would feel like we should be spoiling the ending. But the in between bits, I mean, how else are we supposed to talk about?
I guess
them?
that's
It's
true.
being vague.
That's true.
We're not geniuses. Oh, except Sarah. But the rest of us are not geniuses.
Nah, I'm not cleaning the floors at, you know, some prestigious school and then finishing, you know.
Boy genius from Southie. How many other therapists, how many other psychologists did you go to before me? Let me guess. I don't know the names. Sarah knows it better than me.
One of the funny things that occurred to me when I was watching this was that it reminded me of that really cool episode of The Regular Show when they find the power synthesizer and they say, "Take us to the moon, take us to the moon." I was like, yeah, having a synthesizer and the power to do special things taken a totally different direction.
Yeah. Like I'm trying to think of other science fiction movies where sound is the is like the key to, you know, unlocking things. There's like Close Encounters, like that's how they communicate with the aliens is through sound. He-Man.
Yeah, I was just
Masters
gonna say,
of the Universe.
Masters of the Universe.
A key, He-Man. A key.
Oh, I don't want to remember that.
I love that
I
movie.
saw
loved
that.
He-Man.
Yeah, I saw that movie so many times when I was a kid.
We were all those kids.
Oh man. Well, you know, it's just
Yeah, it was our
music.
thing.
Music is just it's a wonderful thing, but it's kind of interesting to see it being used as, you know, or sound, you know, being used as a terrible weapon as well, you know?
I know. I love sound so much. I mean, I listen to music all the time. I listen to poetry, plays, a lot of different things, but this was like I couldn't deal with it. And the sound itself,
Yeah.
they chose a really good way to show just like a void. And I can't imagine just using something so great in such a terrible way.
Yeah.
Yeah, these people didn't know what was coming at all. And I think even the main guy didn't really know what he was in for.
Yeah, he didn't know what he was doing. I mean,
Well,
I don't
yeah.
want to say he didn't know what he was doing, but he did know what he was doing. He just didn't.
Well, there was almost like a duality at first, like, you know, you could tell when he was on his meds, he was talking about like how this was going to change everyone's lives and how you know he wanted to get published, or there's a scene where he's accepting the Nobel Prize, you know, for finding this sound, you know, and but then later on, it's as if like all of that is lost, and he's just figured out that, you know, he just controlled the universe by himself. And
He had these big ideas and these big ambitions, but this movie never leaves his house, and that is his universe. Like when these new neighbors move in, the neighbor happens to come and introduce herself to him, and she happens to walk by one day, and that's when his whole thing started. He wouldn't have left the house to go see who she does, you know, where she was or anything like that. And the couple times he does leave the house, chaos ensues.
Yeah, he has all these grand ideas. I'm going to change the world. I'm going to get the Nobel Prize for this. Think of all the ramifications, the changes that could be made to the world. Instead, he uses them to have sex with his neighbor's wife. He's like, okay, out of all the choices, infinite possibilities in the world, from this new technology, what am I going to choose to do? I'll convince a woman to have sex with me that probably doesn't want to. Like, it was just really bizarre that was, out of all the choices, that was what he chose on many occasions.
Yeah, no, this wasn't like a one-time thing either. No.
He made so many mistakes, too. You just felt like the guy was he is a genius in the movie, but he was so stupid.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So stupid.
Yeah, he's a genius about sound manipulation, but everything else.
And so he was talking with someone on the internet about his device. And he developed a friendship with a couple other people, and it sounded like one of the guys didn't believe him, but another guy was catching on, and he came and he tried to visit him because, well, he wanted to find out what he's been up to. And yeah, I'm forgetting his name at this point.
He was
regretfully.
he was just a round-headed person.
The other scientist,
Yeah. And okay, my problem with this movie was that this guy had like little to no opposition. It just seemed like he got what he wanted all the time. I felt that like there was a couple points where, like, you know, he was using he was manipulating his neighbors, you know, having sex with his you know, his neighbor, and her not being able to understand or even fully comprehend what's going on. And the other scientist found out about this, and he confronted him, and he just was like, nope, sorry, dude, I'm just gonna, you know, mess with your mind. You're totally gonna forget this even happened. Like,
yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, it was his magic restart button every time a problem started to happen.
I wish that he could have felt like just even a little bit of the pain that, you know, but the thing is they didn't even know what was going on with them.
Yeah.
It was as if, you know, you, the viewer, the one who's really the only one who's being agonized because you see what's going on and they don't even know. They don't even know. Like,
the acting was done really well. There were some moments that were really disturbing because you could see them in this vegetative state that they were pretending to be in as actors, but it was convincing. I mean, you could see that they were taking in everything that he was telling them to do, and you just felt, as the viewer, humiliated and disgusted for them.
That manipulation and the using of people he doesn't know, and therefore has no attachment to, is a difficult thing to talk about, because this movie is like supposed to be, I mean, the movie is a dark comedy, and it had funny moments. You know, there were things that he did that were stupid, you know, like he does get caught a couple of times, and you know, it's funny to a point.
Yeah, the randomizer chose quite a treat for us this time around, man. Like, it was brutal.
I'm happy
it was
I watched
a very
it.
brutal film.
Yeah. I mean, I've never heard anybody talking about it before. I probably just don't hang out with the right groups, you know. Biker gangs and chipmunk enthusiasts and nutritionists.
I don't know. I'm not entirely sure, you know, what sci-fi fan this movie is aimed after, unless, of course, you're looking for, like, something that's going to completely F up your mind. I don't know. That was kind of, you know, if you're looking for that experience, this film is definitely for you, I guess. It reminded me slightly of a Sandman comic in the first graphic novel, the Preludes and Nocturnes, when, I don't know if you've read Sandman, whoever's listening, but there's a character, his name's Dr. D, and he gains the Sandman's amulet, and he goes into this truck stop and begins to just manipulate everyone in the truck stop, and it felt very similar to that issue of the Sandman. Like, it was kind of a scary experience where I was like, I think I've seen this before.
Yeah. It's the Purple Man. That's what it is. Wait, what? Okay. Let's talk about this in the aspect of science fiction. This movie was science fiction as far as we know, because as far as we know, this technology doesn't exist. But I feel like it was like barely scraping the surface of being a science fiction movie. I mean, this guy could have just been a hypnotist, which is a real thing.
Yeah.
And could have been manipulating people through lights. This one just happened to be him discovering the tones that could be used to put people into that hypnotic state. What do you think? Is it sci-fi?
Well, I'm gonna say that that it is science fiction in the sense that the technology, like, I know that I haven't done any studies on it, but I'm pretty sure that nowadays we have the ability to weaponize sound. I'm sure that there is a frequency that would kill people.
Yeah, we do.
You know, I'm sure of it.
I mean, I don't know that specifically, but I have, yeah.
Well, again, there's the brown note, but I don't think that's actually killed anybody except for Kenny on that episode of South Park.
And so I feel that eventually I'm sure someone will create a scenario, maybe using sound that could manipulate people. It's not that far off from you know.
Well, now I'm terrified.
Have you guys ever had a traumatic experience from sound? Like, sound was like something scary or horrible?
Nothing comes to mind, but
I'm pretty sure that there have been a couple of I mean, it's audio and visual, like a couple of like jump scares in some movies that have gotten me, but it's not just the visual effect. It's, you know, they also use sound at that moment to grab you. But I mean, like I said, I don't think it really counts because it's more of like a, you know.
I just thought of something. I thought of a couple of things. This is probably a common experience for anyone who's had to work at a place where you are constantly bombarded by the same sound over and over. When I was younger, I worked at a theme park, and for 8 hours a day, I had to hear country, western style instrumental music, nothing with any lyrics or anything like that, because it was a mining town environment. Now, well, there's a theme to the Waltons and other songs that I can't remember, thank goodness now. But I specifically remember the theme to the Waltons. And by the end of the day, after how many months of doing this job, I would try to sleep, and all I could hear was this music over and over, like earworms. Forced earworms. And so I would be, like, stressed. And the funny thing is, what initially made me think of this situation was the time that I had to wait for my older siblings while they got on the Matterhorn at Disneyland, and I had to wait by the teacup ride. And so that night I couldn't go to sleep because all I could hear is
Disney weaponized sound.
That's right. A very merry on birthday from me.
Oh my gosh. Well, I guess I've never had anything that bad happen. Sorry to remind you of that.
No, it's fine.
I have had this really weird experience where I often put headphones on when I'm going to sleep and just put some music on. And in the middle of the night, I wake up with something blasting in my ears. Because at some point, I don't know if I touched my phone or what happened, but the volume is just so intense. And there's been a couple of times where I was afraid I hurt my ears from doing that. But,
oh, man.
You know, concerts and whatnot over time. I think I take the good with the bad because I just love music, but yeah, I've had an experience where I was scared from how loud it was when I woke up. But nothing as bad as being forced to stand in a spot and listen to the same instrumental music over and over again. That's
not true. You have specifically told me about a story working at a certain store during Christmas time.
That's right. No, I've had a couple of retail experiences where they played horrible music. I worked at a store for quite some time that played country western music, and it was the pop country, you know, that tries to make funny jokes and puns and all these little, you know, wink wink nudge nudge kind of remarks, and I knew a lot of them by the time I was done working there, but God, it was so terrible. And everyone kept saying to me, most of the time when people hear this kind of music for a while, they start to like it. And I'm like, no, I don't like it. I will never like it. Still don't like it. Remember the song, still don't like it. But I think what Joel was talking about is a time that I worked in a department store. They hired me to work in the Christmas department, which was a department in this store. And it was October, before Halloween, and all day long people would come in and say, it's only October. But there wasn't anything I could do about that. I was just supposed to operate the cash register. They had Christmas toys in there that would play these annoying, like, sound bites of songs, of Christmas songs on a loop over and over again. Just a clip, just a piece.
So you don't even get a full song?
No.
You would just get, like, a piece of a song?
Over and over and over
like
and over
the few
again.
bells of a, like jingle, 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 and then the next track kind of a thing?
Like,
Shut up!
yeah, like that.
Grandma got ran over by, and then it would just go to the next one? Like
Oh, that's a great song. I could listen to that all the time.
I feel like I hit a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't mean to, like, cause this weird conversation.
Oh, no. This is, we're definitely on point, because the whole idea is that sound, it does affect us both in a good way and a bad way. You know what I mean. There are different sounds for different moods.
Yeah.
And this movie did a great job of, like, producing sounds that were both terrifying, like, at certain points, and at other times, it was just a crazy film, man.
It was weird.
Just a crazy film.
It was, just cerebral, and, like, there were some things that didn't seem very linear when we were watching it. I mean, it eventually all made sense in the context that we were watching it, but I remember thinking, is this happening, like, in order, or are these things really happening? Are they in his mind? And those are the kind of things that I think when I'm watching something that's like a psychological thriller, which I think this could have been kind of a psychological thriller, too.
Yeah, it was good. The movie's actually good. I don't know if we've emphasized that. Like, even though it was kind of disturbing and it was dark, it was good. I think that the way the story laid out and everything was revealed, like you were talking about, was pretty masterfully done. I didn't feel like I was missing anything by the end. I feel like I had everything that the movie intended me to know from the plot.
It's kind of this weird mashup too, because you feel like in one place you're in this really low budget, like, situation where he's just got, like, a synthesizer in the basement and he's just kind of tweaking it and making these little, he's got this weird thing where he drags his fingers across this light screen or something that I really want one of those.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, there were, like, several scenes where he's talking to this guy on this microphone, and, like, there's this light screen that's just kind of blinking on the side, and I felt, maybe I'm just ADD or something, but, like, he must have said something really important, but I was just watching those lights, man. Like, my eyes just kept getting drawn to, like, one dot would hit another dot, and then make, like, a big square of dots, and I was just like, I want one.
Yeah.
It's like that lights out game I used to have, an electronic one, where you just eliminate the squares, except for it was doing it on its own. Maybe that was the actual sci-fi. Maybe his synthesizer was alive, and no, what? Yes, no, what? Okay.
It sounds like a good twist to me.
Jetpack.
I think it was interesting what you said about the fact that they don't leave the house.
Yeah.
Because
just like hardware.
Yeah, I thought of hardware when you guys were talking about that, and I thought of the frickin' Chappie when we were watching that.
Oh yeah.
About how, like, he like figured out the whole world, Secret of the Soul or something, based on like 4 PlayStations put together. I was like, this guy's synthesizer is almost as good as those 4 PlayStations.
One synthesizer equals 4 PlayStations.
And there was a PlayStation 4. That's a lot of technology. I bet I could figure out some stuff. Maybe we should go buy one right now. Best Buy credit card. Okay.
What?
I don't think they sell synthesizers.
Get out of here.
I feel like you didn't say very much.
No.
You should say more.
Oh, you mean during the podcast? I'm the most boring person.
You are not. No. No.
What about
Don't want it to cause any
I
physical
felt like
harm.
you were just like holding yourself back.
No, I just. I mean, I was holding myself back on purpose because I don't want to talk about how I was disturbed by the whole rape thing.
It's a big deal, though.
I really don't
It's a
want to
big
like
deal.
rush into that on this speak.
Well, I guess if I had known that was in the film, I probably would have not really wanted to see it that much.
I feel like
That's a big red flag for me nowadays. A lot of movies, I don't.
I want to know how that comes off to people who see the movie otherwise, that like treat it as only a dark comedy, because I can imagine watching this movie, seeing what happens between those people and not thinking, oh, that was rape, thinking that's look what he's doing, he's such a loser. Like, yeah, he's a loser who's raping somebody.
Yeah.
He does bad things. I mean, he's a bad person. And
you really wanted to suffer, though. Like, at least for me personally, I was just like, I really wanted him to suffer. Like,
yeah, he did that before. He was manipulating.
He literally killed people, and he literally raped people, and he literally enslaved people.
Yeah.
It's I think there is like a weird comic element to the movie where I think it's that lo-fi thing of him being like, oh, wait a minute, let me get the speaker set up, let me push my synthesizer, like, whoops, you weren't supposed to know that, let me rewind this, and it's kind of almost like a British comedy where, like, the people running in their underwear or something, like, I don't know.
It's like building blocks. Like I feel like the story was almost like like Legos. Like they set this one up here. He's smart. Then they set another block and they're like he created something cool. Mm-hmm. Wait, there's something going on with his. Then they throw in like another color block and then it's like oh, looks like he's got a really bad relationship with his wife. And then later on, they do more, and then you start like once it's established what he can do, then you start seeing all this nasty like other stuff is built up on there, and like and so it's like they only really that he's off, that he's off, but then you don't really know how far it's going to go, and then I think that's just where it really gets agonizing, is because like they kind of set it up that like, oh cool, he might do something really awesome with this technology, but no he just he sits in the house and
rapes people.
Yeah,
I think that it's hard to watch something when you don't like the people that a story is about. I've had this happen before where I'll be watching a TV series or something and suddenly I realize I don't like any of the characters on it anymore. I don't really care what happens to them and I don't want to watch it. But in this movie, I felt like, as twisted as it was, they they somehow kept people interested in finding out what was going to happen with this device that he created and what his master plan was going to be. And it's really strange that he's able to have all of this happen and make all of these grand scale choices, but really just in such a little trivial way with this synthesizer he has.
Yeah.
It almost feels that almost reminds me of like I don't even know. I don't know what it reminds me of.
Well, you mentioned early on when we were watching the film, Sarah, that you felt like that he could have just been a crazy guy.
Yeah.
He could have just been a crazy guy. You could write the whole movie off that it's all in his head, and at the end of the film, oh, he wakes up, oh, looks, I'm just a crazy guy. Nothing happened. I was sitting in a basement. Like...
Totally.
and I don't know what point I'm trying to make.
No, yeah, I remember saying, like, is this a sci-fi movie if it ends up all being in his head? And we were talking about, like, whether or not our experience of watching a sci-fi movie makes it a sci-fi movie.
Interesting, yeah.
Or, like, if that just makes it, like, a drama or like I said, a psychological thriller. It is kind of a psychological thriller, but with sci-fi elements and kind of this weird... I don't know. It's a weird movie. It's really... I've never seen anything like it before. Kind of reminded me of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, but which is like one of my favorite movies ever. But weirder than that, which is saying something. Weirder.
Darker.
Yeah, for sure darker.
I mean, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is about love, and this is like about power. Power corrupting, absolutely. Even at the end, when the thing happens, it's like it doesn't...
Yeah, sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt you, but
what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? If I had a synthesizer, who you would pay?
I wouldn't know what would happen. So
You wouldn't be any the wiser.
I just wish that he had more opposition. I think that's my only problem in the film, is he just got away with everything, like, way too, like, you know.
What do you mean? The police show up?
Yeah, and for a minute, and then they go away because he mind messed with them.
And that insurance guy from the car company shows up?
Again. The dude, he messed with his mind.
Oh, what about the other guy who knows about the sound powers? He shows up.
Yeah, the other scientist totally messes with his mind, and he goes away too. It's like all opposition is resolved within like 2 to 3 minutes in this movie.
Sometimes he waits a minute to push the button.
Yeah, that's true.
You
He
kind
does.
of wonder, like, oh, is he not going to do it this time? Nope.
How would you react if you were in the room with somebody and they just suddenly put on headphones while you were talking to them?
I would fucking run.
Well, now, how would you have reacted before?
I think I would get pissed. Like, I would just be like, hey, what are you doing? Like,
what the?
You don't want to listen to me? Like,
My association with that is somebody's going to fire a gun or something.
Oh.
Like, why else would you do that indoors without anybody else having anything on?
I didn't think of that.
I don't know.
Yeah, I've never seen a gun before, so I don't know. I don't know what that's like. I just churn butter for a living out in the fields. I don't know about guns. Wait, there were guns in Hardware. Damn, my story falls apart so fast. So, okay. We've had a pretty good discussion about this movie. I think the thing I want to talk about lastly is this a better movie than Hardware? Hardware from 1990, if you'll recall, starring Dylan McDermott and some other people.
I would say that it's my second favorite movie about being stuck in an apartment.
After Hardware.
After Hardware.
Right. Yes. Sarah, you didn't actually watch Hardware. What's your opinion?
I liked this movie. I would never watch it again, but I liked it because it was different. Yeah.
I feel inspired in some weird way to go out and buy a synthesizer just to mess around with it now.
Yes.
I mean, they look fun.
I don't think I like the sound of that, Aaron. We just watched a movie where people do synthesizers to do really bad things. I don't think I like the sound of that.
Aaron's a good person. He would not use the power of mind control.
Listen, one of my favorite bands is Queen, and one of Queen's labels is no synthesizers. I'm with them.
That's fine, man.
There was one other thing that we didn't talk about that I thought of.
Okay.
Well, we had kind of these existential conversations when we were watching the movie, kind of about what experience would be like, what the experience would be like to be these people that were under the control of another person, and Aaron and I were talking a little bit spiritually about, you know, what the meaning of life is, and then sort of saying, like, is it possible to really get to the meaning of life if you're under someone else's command? And, just sort of talking about that. And I think Aaron and I both were of the opinion that those people didn't do anything to deserve this.
Nothing at all.
And that in the grand scheme of things, their spirituality wouldn't be, in jeopardy in any way for this, or their journey in life.
Yeah.
It was derailed
into
another direction, and that is in no way their fault. These incidences that are now happening to them are part of their experience, but
I feel the same way with like portrayals of people with a demonic possession as well. It's I don't think it's necessarily their fault in film when that occurs. And I mean they just become a thing, something in the story that is causing terror.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't want to get too into God really, but I think that this movie, throughout the storyline, I was getting this vibe of like, he thinks he's God. He thinks he can do whatever he wants. And I've noticed sometimes in movies that people think that they can do something really crazy and just, thinly veil this analogy about God. And I think some people just have a really twisted idea of what they think God is, or what, if they don't believe in God, they use this sort of an argument to say there is no God because bad things happen in the world. And, they're saying like, well, what if God is like this twisted guy in an apartment with a synthesizer controlling everyone and not helping them in any way? And like, I don't know. I just felt like there was an underlying thing of, are we part of this experiment? Is God just some person pointing at us and laughing like the Greek gods or whatever in freaking Clash of the Titans? I don't know.
No, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
I get a little bit irritated when I think that a movie is trying to make that point without coming out and saying it. So when I was watching it, I was kind of like, oh, this guy thinks he's, godlike. He's realizing he can do anything he wants to anyone. And he was the most human person you could have ever picked to show this experiment in a movie on. So if anybody who made this movie was trying to make a point about what God is, I'm not, I don't pretend to know everything, and I'm not the most religious person in the world, but I disagree if that was a point that was trying to be made in the movie.
Totally. I totally agree with you, Sarah.
That doesn't need to be a part of the recording if you don't want it to be.
I'm sorry, I was thinking about Clash of the Titans. Burgess Meredith, Harry Hamlin.
No, I think it's a very important point though. Like they did touch on those matters, and it was really weird too because when we were having our discussion about free will, and it was mind-boggling to see that the concept of God did come up in the film like later on. I was just like, whoa, like.
Yeah, and I think maybe I was reading into it too much in that direction, but sometimes I hear people say things like that, that they think this is all some crazy twisted experiment and that there's some godlike figure laughing at us in the clouds or something, and I just think that that's the silliest thing you could imagine our existence being.
It's like that Depeche Mode song, right?
Shout.
Yep.
I didn't mean to make this all, like...
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Joel, what are you thinking?
I don't know.
Did you see it in like existential terms, like that it could be like a micro version of the Earth or something in his house?
My feelings about control and a higher power have almost no relation with what happens in this movie. So I can say honestly that I didn't feel like this was a reflection of anything that I could believe or see. But I do have a weird...
No, I wasn't saying that I could see that. I was saying I could see someone else saying it.
Right.
I could see...
But that's why I don't have friends.
Writing this in.
I don't have friends, so I don't have to hear people say crap.
I don't know if
I'm your
was...
friend, Joel. I'm your friend.
You're on
I'm
notice.
going to go on public radio podcast and say I'm your friend.
Aaron, you're on notice. You said you were going to
things.
buy a synthesizer, so...
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to have to say Hardware was a better movie, though, Joel. Like, I'm pretty sure that I would watch Hardware, 3 times more than I'd watch this movie.
Yes, I would watch this movie again, but not anytime soon, and certainly not for, I wouldn't sit down and be like, I feel like watching LFO. If I saw it, maybe I wanted to remember something I'd seen there, I would watch it again. But yeah, Hardware is at least fun to watch, especially with other people.
This seems like the kind of movie you'd tell people about, though, because, it does cause all these, ideas to go into your head, and you're sort of left thinking about it afterwards. But I could see myself saying, oh my gosh, have you guys heard of this crazy movie? And then being really sorry I did afterwards, because I don't want to burden anybody with, having to go through it, but at the same time, it's so weird.
Yeah, it's not so bad.
I got really excited when I saw Elijah Wood as a producer, and I was kind of hoping that maybe he would show up
At your house?
Yeah, definitely at my house. But we could talk action figures. But no, we were. I was hoping he'd show up in the movie, and kind of disappointed that he didn't even do a little bit part, like the mailman, or
Maybe he played the synthesizer.
Wow.
Maybe he was Kenny Baker style inside the synthesizer.
Okay.
What? What's that?
Kenny Baker, he was the little person that was inside R2-D2.
Well,
my imagination came up with something way cooler than that.
Oh.
I was picturing a movie where there was a human that got put into a machine.
Oh, that's cool.
Like a...
Lawnmower Man.
No, not like Lawnmower Man.
Oh.
I'll save it.
All right.
I hope the randomizer chooses Lawnmower Man at some point.
Oh, man, that's a good idea. Why don't we see what we can get here? As we said last time, whenever we go to choose our next movie, we simply reach into a pocket dimension, which gives us a movie that just happens to be on Netflix Instant Watch here in the U.S. So we're going to reach in right now, and... it's got me!
Oh! What happened, Joel?
That was just gas.
Oh, okay.
So the next movie is Parts Per Billion from 2014, directed by Brian Horiuchi, Horiuchi. Chi is not a letter.
That's Brian Horucci. Yeah. I think there's a Hori.
I think you're just being racist.
Maybe. Sorry.
Anyways.
Sorry, Brian.
It says it's got a 2.2 rating, so that should be fun. Got a lot of famous people in it. We'll see what that's like.
Cool.
Once again, another movie we've never heard of and have no idea what it's going to be like. But we'll find out next week when we come back. Until then, thank you for listening. My name is Joel Torres.
My name's Aaron Cornelius.
I'm Sarah Roberts.
And we'll see you next time.